We met on an afternoon that smelled like old books and unexpected beginnings. I was crouched in the poetry aisle of a dusty little bookstore, flipping through Neruda, when a hand reached over and picked up the same volume. That's how Rayan entered my life, quietly, confidently, like he already belonged there. He smiled, said something about fate choosing who gets the last copy, and I, flustered and intrigued, let him have it. From that moment, we fell into step easily. Rayan was attentive in ways I hadn't known I needed. He remembered how I liked my coffee, 2 sugars, no milk. He messaged me good morning before I opened my eyes and never missed a chance to hold my hand when we crossed the street. In 2 years, he became home. We moved into a small apartment with sun-streaked windows and too many bookshelves. We built routines, shared playlists, Friday takeout, Sunday cleaning sprees. It was the kind of love that didn't ask for much, just presence. Steady, quiet, warm. He had this habit of watching me fall asleep. He'd stroke my hair, sometimes kiss my forehead, then get up to clean or scroll through his phone. I never minded. In fact, I loved knowing that he looked at me with that softness even when I wasn't awake to see it. I trusted him, completely. Maybe more than I trusted myself. That's what love does when you think you've finally found the person who won't hurt you. But love has a strange way of whispering before it screams. The first time it happened, I barely registered it. I had dozed off during a movie night, wrapped in a blanket on the couch, and woke up just in time to see Rayan pointing his phone toward me. A quick flash, too faint to fully open my eyes, and then darkness. He said he was just turning off the lamp. I nodded, already slipping back into sleep. It wasn't until the next morning, when I saw the phone still in his hand as he slept, that the moment returned to me with a dull, nagging edge. Still, I told myself it was nothing. People take pictures of those they love all the time, don't they? It was probably something cute. Maybe he wanted to capture the way I looked so peaceful, or maybe he planned to turn it into a meme to tease me. Rayan had always been playful, like that. But somewhere, just beneath the comfort, something began to stir. A strange tension I couldn't name. It didn't feel like doubt, not yet, but it lingered in the corners of our laughter and brushed against the quiet moments we used to enjoy so easily. That night, as he reached for his phone again after I turned away, I pretended to sleep. Eyes closed, heart open, listening to the silence between us grow a little too loud. The morning light spilled through the curtains, soft and golden, but it couldn't wash away the unease lingering from the night before. I watched Rayan from across the kitchen as he scrolled through his phone, his thumb moving in slow, deliberate motions. A smile crept onto his lips, private, unshared, and then vanished the second he noticed me looking. He locked his screen and slid the phone face down on the counter like it was nothing. "Sleep well?" he asked, voice warm, eyes unreadable. I nodded and forced a smile, though a quiet ache pressed against my chest. I wanted to believe it was nothing. Maybe he was planning a surprise. Maybe he found an old video of us. My mind built stories quickly as it tried to tear down the doubts rising like smoke, but deep down, I already knew this wasn't nothing. That night, I decided to test what I wasn't ready to admit. I slipped into bed beside him, turned to the wall, and let my breathing slow into the rhythm of sleep. Behind me, I heard the faint rustle of sheets, the soft click of a phone camera. I kept still, heart pounding against the mattress. Another flash, too quick for the eye, but not for the soul. My throat tightened. In the morning, I said nothing. We went about our day like any other couple. He made breakfast. I picked out a playlist. We joked about the weather. But every smile felt thinner, stretched over a quiet dread. Rayan kissed my cheek before leaving for work, and I stood by the door a few moments longer, holding on to the sound of it closing behind him. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space where his phone usually rested on the nightstand. It was always with him, always guarded. I hadn't noticed that before. Or maybe I hadn't wanted to. That thought clung to me like smoke, invisible but suffocating. Later that evening, He brought home dinner and a movie, trying to recreate the comfort we used to share. I wanted to reach for that old feeling, to fall into the safety of routine, but something in me had changed. The warmth between us now felt staged, a script he knew by heart but no longer meant. "You looked really peaceful last night," he said mid-bite. "I took a photo. You looked like an angel." I forced a laugh, nodding like it was sweet. But the tenderness in his voice felt rehearsed, too polished. That night, I watched him drift to sleep beside me, his breathing deep and even. I stared at the ceiling in silence, rehearsing a plan I never thought I'd need. Tomorrow, when he showered, his phone left unattended, I'd look, just once. Not out of mistrust, I told myself, but for peace. But the truth hung heavy in my chest. Peace doesn't grow where doubt has taken root. The next morning arrived quietly, as if the world outside knew something was about to change. I waited until I heard the water running in the bathroom, his usual 10-minute shower routine. I moved quickly but carefully, my hands colder than the phone I retrieved from the nightstand. For a moment, I stared at the screen, hesitating. This wasn't who I was. But love has a way of twisting your reflection until you barely recognize your own silhouette. His password was still the same. Our anniversary. That detail almost made me pause again. Almost. The phone unlocked, and I opened the gallery. At first, everything seemed normal. Photos of us, filtered snapshots from weekend getaways, and the usual selfies we took in random grocery store aisles. I almost laughed at how ordinary it all was. Maybe I really had overthought everything. Then, I scrolled further. A folder caught my eye, tucked beneath albums labeled with dates and locations. This one was named Moments. The title alone felt innocent, but something about its placement, hidden, unassuming, made my stomach coil. I opened it. The first few pictures were of me, sleeping. Peaceful, vulnerable. I remembered the nights, the couch, the soft light, the way he'd say I looked like art. But there were too many of them, all taken on different days, different clothes, different angles. Why so many, and why only when I was unaware? Then I noticed the backgrounds. In one photo, there was a glass of wine on the nightstand. I don't drink. In another, a shadow behind the curtain that didn't belong to either of us. I kept scrolling, and then I saw her. A woman, young, unfamiliar, curled in our bed, half covered by the same blanket we shared. Her hair spilled across the pillow that still carried my scent. Another image. Rayan, shirtless, his face pressed against hers while she slept, my lungs locked. My skin turned to ice. Photo after photo, her brushing her teeth in our bathroom, wearing my robe, holding a mug I bought in Venice. And then, voice memos. I clicked on one without thinking. His voice filled the silence. "She's so predictable," he laughed, speaking to someone named Lana. "I could take 100 pictures of her sleeping and she wouldn't suspect a thing. It's like living in 2 movies at once." I couldn't breathe. The phone slipped from my hand, landing softly on the carpet, but the damage had already cut deep. Everything I thought we were, the stories, the mornings, the small rituals, dissolved under the weight of his lies. He didn't just betray me. He studied me, photographed me like a possession, and built a separate world in the spaces where I trusted him the most. The shower stopped. I stood there, frozen, with 1,000 emotions, crowding my chest and only one clear thought rising to the surface. I couldn't stay. Not another second. And I wouldn't. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. The silence that wrapped around me was colder than anything he could have said. When he stepped out of the bathroom, towel slung low on his hips, smiling like the world hadn't just shifted beneath my feet, I smiled back. It was faint, hollow, but he didn't notice. He never really looked, not deeply. Not in the way I had once believed he did. The rest of the day passed in slow, choreographed motions. We had breakfast, eggs, toast, and small talk. He played a podcast while folding laundry. I nodded along, performing the part of a woman still in love. But everything had changed. My heart had packed its bags even if my body hadn't yet. That night, I laid beside him, watching his chest rise and fall with the rhythm of sleep. I memorized it, not because I missed him, but because I needed to mark the moment my love died. The boy I met in the bookstore didn't exist. He was a story Rayan had told me to make it easier to lie later. At dawn, I moved like a ghost. No slammed doors, no tears, just quiet precision. I packed what I needed: my books, my clothes, the little parts of myself I had shared too freely. I left behind the framed photos on the shelves and the anniversary cards he never meant. Let him keep the evidence of his performance. On the bathroom mirror, I left a note. One sentence. "Thank you for showing me who you really are while I was asleep. I didn't sign it. He'd know." By the time he woke, I was gone. The city outside felt different, as if it had been waiting for me to open my eyes. I found a small apartment on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, just enough. At night, I wrapped myself in silence and started to breathe again. The ache didn't vanish overnight. Grief never leaves quietly. But day by day, I peeled him off my skin. Weeks passed. One afternoon, I sat by the window with my laptop open and a blank document staring back at. My fingers hovered, hesitant. Then with a steady breath, I began to type. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't bitterness. It was a truth that needed to be told. The title came first, as if it had always been waiting inside me. He took a picture of me sleeping. I didn't need to expose his name or ruin his life. The story itself was enough. It belonged to me now. And as the words began to flow, I realized something simple and fierce. I had been the art all along. He was just the thief.